On Tuesday evening, as the election results were coming in, I went to bed. I turned off the ringer on my phone, and I said to myself, I'm going to need rest as much as I can get. I need to put on my own oxygen mask first before I'll be any good for anyone else the next day. And so I did. I woke up to emails and text messages, Facebook feeds, and voicemails of beloveds who were scared and fearful, who were crushed and bodily ill, outraged and numb and despondent and overwhelmed. Reminded me of the laments from our psalmist, who says, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down and there we wept when we remembered Zion. On the willows there we hung up our harps. How could we sing the Lord's song in what has become a foreign land? Dana and I talked it over and agreed that people probably needed a safe place that day to come and receive a hug or a blessing, to pour out their emotions. And so I advertised online that the church building would be open a few hours from then from 5 to 6 for people to come for just that. And then I was headed to Starbucks. Last Sunday morning, Clark Beckham came and sang from American Idol during the early church service. And I had sent him an email thank you a few days later for coming and sharing his music. And he emailed back and he said, I would love to get together with you if you're open to that. I'd love to hear more about what it is that your churches believe and what kind of Christianity this is. It's so interesting to me. So I was going to go meet with him, but on that day, Dana and I did not want to leave each other's side. So she came with me. We got out of the car at Starbucks and we went to cross the parking lot. And usually we hold hands when we cross places. And we paused and thought about not holding hands because it didn't feel safe. It didn't feel like the same world. But we did anyway. We went inside and went up to the counter and I said what I wanted to order, and I said, my love, what do you want to order? And so she said so to the barista, who rung it up, and I went to swipe our card, and I noticed that the bill seemed incorrect. It was way too low for us to have ordered 3 items. And so I said, I think there must be a mistake here. And the barista looked at us and said, there's no mistake. I got you. And it was very moving and touching. It made us want to cry. He said, would you like a receipt with that? And I said, yes, please. I wanted to hold on to that piece of paper that reminded me of what loving kindness looks like the day after the election. And so he went to give it to me, and I put out my palm, and he placed the paper on my palm, and I grabbed his hand, and I held on to it. And Dana said that looked kind of creepy. But I didn't care, because we just squeezed each other's hands, and it reminded me of that holy and sacred feeling as when you receive communion. And it was wonderful. Soon after we left Starbucks, we headed up to the church to put out 10 chairs in a circle in the lobby. We lit candles, turned out the overhead lights, and one by one, people started coming in. We had over 20 people that night from both churches. And I was able to give each one that hug that I had wanted to embrace for all of you. People sat in a circle and cried and raged and shared how they were feeling and felt safe to do so. After tragic violence, there's often a fear of copycat behavior. So what do you do when the highest elected leader of the free world is the one exhibiting and inciting the violence? In days since the election, copycat violence has emerged. Muslim women have had their hijabs ripped off. One was told to strangle herself with it. Dozens of boys reportedly grabbed girls' vaginas in the hall at school, saying, if the president can do it, so can I. Swastikas have been painted in school bathrooms and on billboards. Students and adults in many parts of the country have yelled at Latinos to go home to Mexico. We're going to build that wall now. The N-word and gay slurs have made many of us frightened to death. I heard last night of reports of children who voted for Trump in mock elections at their own school being beaten by other students in front of teachers. There's violence all around. So what do you do in the midst of such violence? What do you do in this world? I hope you were able to hear that contemporary reading from this morning about what it is from earlier in our service, what it is to be the church. Because churches do a lot. Churches create safe places for people. Churches raise monies for mission. Churches connect you to people whom you have relationships with that you lean on in times like this. Churches have garage sales. Churches help those who are marginalized, those who are vulnerable. Churches provide counseling. Churches change lives and tell people that they are loved and beloved no matter what. So being the church is one thing that we do in the midst of such violence. I don't know how many of you received the UCC daily devotional in your email. It's called Still Speaking. Many of us receive it. And from yesterday, the daily devotional said this: if you wear a hijab, I will sit next to you on the train. If you're trans, I will go to the bathroom with you. If you are a person of color, I will stand with you if the cops stop you. If you're a person with disabilities, I will hand you my megaphone. If you are an immigrant, I will help you find resources. If you are a survivor, I will believe you. If you are a refugee, I will make sure that you are welcome. If you are a veteran, I will take up your fight. If you are LGBTQ, I will remind you that you are beautiful and beloved just as God made you. If you're a woman, I'll make sure that you get home okay. If you're tired, so am I. If you need a hug, I've got an infinite supply. If you need me, I'll be with you. All I ask is that you be with me too. Together we will be the strong arm of God. Our scripture today is known as the parable of the talents. It's a story of a master who entrusts wealth and resources to 3 different workers who are to steward those gifts in the master's absence. The first worker is given the equivalent of 5,000 units of gifts and skills and abilities. Jesus told this parable not only to illustrate how we should treat our money, but also those human gifts, those skills, those abilities, those talents that our Maker has entrusted to us. And so the worker, the first one, invested those 5,000 units with time and love and honor and care, and lo and behold, the original gift doubled over time. The same thing happened with the second worker, who could have looked at the first worker and said, well, I haven't even been given half as much as this other person next to me. But she also invested time and love and honor and care into stewarding the gift that she had been given. And lo and behold, it multiplied and doubled over time. Then we come to the point in this parable in which Jesus wanted to tell the story in the first place. The third and last worker had been given an abundance of gifts and skills and talents. 1,000 units, in fact. Sure, it wasn't as much as some of the others around him, but for some reason he didn't invest. Maybe he was totally unconscious of his gifts and talents. Maybe he didn't even see their usefulness. Perhaps he didn't appreciate the uniqueness that had been given to him. Or he was afraid to use the talents for fear of embarrassment, or failure, or shame, or disappointment, or ridicule, or rejection. It's not like he went out and purposely harmed other people. or used what he had been given for evil purposes. He just let it sit there, unused, undeveloped. He let it atrophy and failed to make a contribution to the kingdom of God, when in fact he was capable of multiplying and doubling the goodness that he had been given. So not only can we use our gifts for good or evil, but we can also fail to use our gifts entirely, to stay inactive or silent, when in fact we've been empowered and equipped to make a huge and positive difference in the world around us in God's kingdom. Today was set to be Stewardship Sunday, long before we knew what this election was going to look like. And Stewardship Sunday was supposed to be the Sunday that I am vulnerable and transparent about my own giving, because a pastor is a role model whether or not she wants to be. So 7 years ago, when I was first ordained, before that time, I had passed the offering plate by, or I had put what I could, which was $1. And I remember over those 10 years of higher education, one time I put $5 in, and one time I put $20 in. But when I became a pastor, I knew that that probably wasn't going to work out for the long run. And so even though I had $60,000 of debt, student loans and credit card debt, car payments, even though I couldn't afford to give, I started giving at $100 a month. Over time, I increased because I felt that where I was putting my money was valuable, that I was investing it in places that made the world a better place. And I don't believe in the prosperity gospel that if you give a certain amount, God gives you a certain amount in exchange, but that is kind of what happened. My debt went down, and I was able to increase over the years. Last year I had increased to $200 a month, and I plan to increase a percentage rate next year. Currently I'm at 5% of my take home, and I hope one day to get to 10% and even more. The reason that I keep giving is because I see the change that our communities make. And if you thought that our churches were important before the election, they are that much more important after in this world that we are living in. So I hope that you will be in prayer this week about how to use the talents that God has given to you. That you'll make choices about how to invest those talents for the good of God's kingdom. As I mentioned, next Saturday night is our stewardship dinner, when I hope that we can bring our cards. And if, like me, you put $1 in, as I did for so many years, into the offering plate, I hope that you can start to pledge that. And not just put it in the offering plate, but pledge $52 a year, so that you make a commitment and say, I'm going to be part of this place and the ministry that happens, and you can count on me. If you've been giving for a while and God puts it onto your heart to increase, I hope that you will. I hope that we can increase the number of pledged givers for 2017. I want to close this evening with words from one of a musician from a band called Wookiefoot, and what he shared on his Facebook post this week. He said, like many of you, my heart has been so heavy for the past couple of days. In a haze of not knowing what to think or feel, weaving through sadness, fear, anger, denial, on in a loop. And then I realized something. I can do two things at the same time. I can be really, really depressed and still find a glimmer of hope for loving people to rally together as community. I can be really terrified of the potential chaos that could unfold, and at the same time be really inspired to do whatever it takes to prevent that. I can do two things at the same time. I can feel like the world has just ended, and that the world is just beginning. I can see pandemics of xenophobia infecting our population like a super virus, and yet simultaneously know that to reduce all opponents down to bigots would be to miss a simple truth. Everyone is afraid. I can do two things at the same time. I can feel the rage in my own heart, and at the same time know that this is the worst fuel to use in my own engine of activism. The exhaust is horrible and unsustainable. I can activate with this community to hold the new administration to account like never before in history, to resist with everything we've got on any unethical and unconstitutional actions, and do it the whole time with a sincere smile on my face while singing, I can do two things at the same time. I can have tears in my eyes and breathe deeply at the same time. I can love my enemy. I can love my enemy and still oppose them at the same time. The only thing I can't do at the same time is laugh and be afraid. So I'm going to laugh. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. There's much work to be done, and just remember to work and laugh at the same time. So, let us be the church this year of all the best things the church can be. Let us copycat baristas and say to people around us, I got you. Let us never let our gifts atrophy or go unused, but let us invest our time and our talents and our treasures, no matter how much or little we feel that we've been given, until all that we have is doubled and multiplied, transforming this world into God's vision of beauty and justice